All right. We're back here with Judge Charles Thomas, now retired, but maybe he should be unretired. I think they should really recruit you, get you back there.
Well, as a matter of fact, they have reinstituted the JHO program starting back in January, and I have put in an application for it, and I may or may not do it if they accept me. We'll see how I feel.
Just so people know, if they're listening, JHO is a judicial hearing officer, right? So you're not officially the judge, but for all intents and purposes, you are.
You can do a lot of things with the JHO.
I like it. I hope they bring you back. They should. But I want to ask you a different question.
Sure.
That's something a little bit more. Well, we've been a little personal today, you and I.
Sure.
But you know that I'm the son of a lawyer, grandson of a lawyer, and you are the father of two trial lawyers, two actually really prominent trial attorneys. What was that like? You being on the bench, having two sons practicing, sometimes in your court, not really in front of you. They're both civil trial lawyers like me, so they wouldn't really be in your part. But what was that like?
Well, let's see. When they went to law school and they'd come home with questions, I would hide because I didn't know the answers to those questions. I try to avoid them. I'm just delighted and flattered that they're doing so well. And as far as I'm concerned, being a lawyer is the best job in the world. You go until you drop. You can't be fired, especially if you're working for yourself. And, I'm very proud of them, and I'm delighted. And I would say, in all honesty, that they are probably a lot better lawyers than I ever was. Okay? My kids spend all day in court. They're in front of it. They know every judge in the county just about. One of them took about 400 verdicts so far. In fact, this week he took 3 verdicts. 3 verdicts. Most lawyers don't take 3 verdicts in a year, so, they're out there working, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, there's no question. But, reeling back, what influence did you exert for them to go to law school? How much, if any?
Well, with one, there was no question he was going to go. There were 2. They're twins, as you know. One of them was going to go, no question about it. He liked the idea. The other one was going to become a doctor. He went to college. Organic chemistry did him in. The instructors were not English speakers, so to speak. He had people that he had different difficulty understanding it. He didn't like it. And he graduates. He had a history degree, probably whatever he had. I said, what's he going to do? I said, look, go to law school. He said, no, I don't want to go to law school. I don't care what you do in this world. I don't care if, you can shovel manure for all I care. But just get a law degree, and then you can do anything you want. It turns out he took to it beautifully. He got a job. It's a funny story. He got a job with a law firm after through a recommendation, and he was hired on a Tuesday, and then he got a call. Come into the office on Thursday. Pick up the file. You're trying a case on Monday. Trying a case. He doesn't even know where the courtroom is in his life. He said to his employer, I don't know what's going on. He says, hey, you're a son of a judge. You can do it. He was right. He was right.
Wait, was that Peter or Dan?
That was Peter.
Wow, boy, that makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because Peter is one of the few lawyers that exists that could probably be in that situation today. In other words, he certainly knows what he's doing now. He wasn't first day lawyer, but here's a rare lawyer that could actually be handed a file, which sometimes happens without much notice, and can handle it. You think that came from you?
No, it actually came from him. He was always out there as an entertainer when he was in school. He was working for a guy who did events, and his grandma, step up and light a candle for the bar mitzvah, that kind of stuff, And, it's all those little shtick. He's an actor. And by the way, he had a trial on that Monday morning in front of one of the toughest judges in the county, the late Judge Arthur Lunshine, and they got along beautifully. It worked out, especially for him. The other guy, who you happen to know, Daniel, he took to it right away. I recommended that he go. I said, you could get a good specialty. I said, when I would practice law, I took whatever came in the door, which is okay, but I would have been better off just focusing on one thing, like something like medical malpractice. And he got an internship at a medical mal firm, a very prestigious medical mal firm. And he stayed on. They offered him a job, and next thing you know, he's into it. Been 20 some odd years, 25 years. I don't even know. Whenever they graduated, sometimes about 20, 25 years.
I think it's more. I think you're off by a couple. The first time it's one day, and I think you're wrong.
Okay, all right. Anyway, that's it. One guy yes, and one guy had a push, and they both have succeeded very well. Thankfully for that.
Well, how much of you do you see in them? Well, in other words, the skills that you have and the things that you connect with, do you see in your sons?
Skill-wise, I see a little bit of me in both of them, but not to the extent that they're emulating my style. I don't think they are. I can't say I see that much together. No, not really. They're individuals. They're not the same. They're not carbon copies of each other either. They're different personalities. As an example, when I asked Peter what time it is, he'll look at his watch. When I ask Daniel what time it is, he'll tell you how to make a watch. That's the difference.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Interesting questions. So another interesting question for me, and by the way, I know both of your sons incredibly well. They both happen to be very dear friends of mine, and I've worked really closely with both of them over a long period of time and rely on both of them. How much do you think it affects them to know, like when they're in court every day, that their father was such a well-regarded judge for so long?
I hope they're proud of it. I think that my influence, I couldn't pass a business on to them. I don't have a business, but I could pass an attitude. I could pass an idea. I could pass on the whole concept, and I think I've done that. And I think they're thriving as a result.
There's no question.
Yeah.
So now I grew up the son of a lawyer. It's some similarities to maybe as your kids growing up in your house. So I know what my dinner table was like when I was in high school and college.
Right.
Being there with a lawyer who, you weren't really going to get away with certain answers with my father, if you know what I mean. So what was your dinner table like?
Well, I tried to avoid being embarrassed by the law questions, so I tried not to go too deep in it. I was there to help them. I gave them, I think, the best tip anybody could ever give a law student. And if anybody is a law student, I pass it on. Get PJI.
Get the pattern jury instructions, you're saying. Yeah, but you know what? Now you're talking about when your kids were like really getting in law school or becoming a lawyer. But how about like when they were in high school? Because that's where that's a pretty formative age. When I was in high school, my dinner table, sitting there with a lawyer, and I knew he was like a big, a character. You had to be that had to be the way your kids viewed you at the dinner table in high school. What was that like?
A dim memory.
Maybe not for them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they could give you the answer, but I really can't. We had dinner every night. That was one thing I really liked about being a judge. I came home, we had dinner every night together. No TV in front of you, that type of thing. It wasn't like, let's go out for pizza. Well, my wife was cooking every night. It was wonderful. They had a wonderful upbringing. In terms, I'm saying that I think it was wonderful. It was wonderful for me, and I look back with real affection. But I can't tell you, well, I did this, and I said that, and they said this. We had good interaction, and don't forget, my daughter is involved in the whole thing too. She's the star of my show, with my daughter.
Yeah, I know your daughter as well, but so why didn't she go into the law? Smart, maybe, right?
No, she was actually, no, that's not true. I got her a job. She was a paralegal. She was doing very, very well in an immigration firm. She didn't want to go to law school, but she was doing well. She speaks fluent French, and so and she got an opportunity. Somebody mentioned, get involved in the modeling business as an agent. And that's what she did, and that's what she's been doing all these years. So, no, she was good, but she didn't want to stick with the law. She was very good as a what's the word I'm looking for?
I guess the paralegal, but she didn't stick in that.
Paralegal. There you go. That's the word. Yeah, she was good. She knew her stuff, but she didn't want to stick with it. She had it for about 2 or 3 years, and then she had an opportunity to go to France and run a model agency in France. I would have taken that job myself if I had that opportunity. You
couldn't have been a model. I think you could be like a judge model. I think there were judge models. Yeah, I think that you'd be the guy. If I think of, when I think of like a judge, and I see, we joke like, oh, if you looked up judge in the dictionary, this is what you'd find. We think we'd find you.
That's very flattering. What's the next question?
So you know what? One more question for you, and then I'm going to let you go.
You got all go. I'm not leaving.
Yeah, but I got a judge that wants to talk to me in about.
All right, there you go.
You're more fun. But let me ask you, going back on your judicial career, if you could go back and change one thing and say, you know what, I wish I could have done, been able to do this or done this differently, what would you do? I stumped you.
You stumped me because there wasn't anything that I didn't like to do. I don't think I'd change anything. I really wouldn't. I was delighted to get in that guardianship part because that became me a very important part, and also gave me independence because the powers that be didn't really know what was going on in that part. So I was in complete control. And I wouldn't change anything, really. I was lucky. Everything sort of fell in place. Maybe if I go home and think about it, I'll find something which bothered me, but I can't think of anything that I would change. I really mean, I have no complaints. They treated me well.
That's great, Judge. And you know what? I got to tell you, you said it all day long about how lucky you were, but I got to tell you something. You really weren't the lucky one. The lucky one were the hundreds of, maybe thousands and thousands of people that came in front of you. Lawyers, litigants, law guardians, incapacitated people, everybody. And because I've been doing this a long time now, and I come from a family of lawyers. So to know that there are guys like you out there that believe so deeply in what you were doing and what you did and are so passionate about it and go about it in such a respectable manner, that is what makes the field, worthwhile. My father and my grandfather taught me that what we do, we meaning you and me, we're all in the same field, is a noble profession. And I think it takes a lot of hits and has black eyes at times, but it shouldn't. And it's guys like you, or judges like you. I'm a little too friendly with you these days, but judges like you that really give it the respect and that it deserves. So let me say thank you, and I appreciate it for everybody and for coming and talking to me.
Well, thank you. That's very kind words. I appreciate it. It's nice to be recognized. Have you done your father?
Yeah, well, yeah, not quite like this, but I have, and I'll do it again. I'll tell him you gave me a directive.
Your father has great stories. He has great stories. He's a real storyteller.
Well, I'm glad I got a chance to get some of yours. If I want to tap into more of them, will I have permission to do so?
Okay. Anyway, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you so much for interviewing me. It was fun. Thank you.
For me. Thanks, Judge.
Okay. Bye-bye.